Hello friends, welcome to Techie-T. I am Manoj Khawala and today we are going to perform different use cases of S3 bucket, AWS S3 bucket. Okay, so what we are going to do, we'll be creating a bucket basically, but obvious, and then we'll be placing a file over there and we'll try to access it locally, okay, over the internet. That's a simple use case. Then we'll move forward. We'll create and we'll launch an EC2 instance and we'll host a simple web page there, and that web page will be using the image file from that bucket. Then we'll further go one more step ahead. What we'll do, we'll create a role and policy around that bucket, because so far we created a public bucket, then just used it in the internet. Now I'll create a roles and policies and we'll try to access it within the EC2 instance. Okay, we'll try to access the bucket, to list the bucket using CLI commands. Then next interesting thing what we are going to do is we'll create a Lambda function, and that Lambda function will automate the functionality of moving like we'll have one bucket, source bucket, and a destination bucket. We'll try to move file from one bucket to other bucket. That through automatically, like the moment we place the file, it will pick it from one bucket to other bucket. Like we'll create a trigger around it. So that will also introduce us lots of policies and roles. So yeah, let's begin with this. So I'm done with my agenda. This is what I'm going to perform. So this is the website, web page, I will say, not the site. This is a web page where like I have just simply placed one logo and a header tag. Okay, right now the image is coming from my local machine, and if I have to show you how does it look like, it just shows a simple logo on top in the center screen, and then a header text. Okay, so first thing first, let's create a bucket. S3, you have to go to S3 bucket, create a bucket. Then bucket type, I'm going for general purpose and giving the name as MK bucket, or I would say web bucket 26 July 2025, as the bucket name has to be unique across the AWS accounts. So I'm just appending this date to make sure that we don't get into duplicate bucket error. Okay, so now my bucket is ready. I'll just create the bucket. Let's get inside the bucket. I'll create a folder over here so that I'll say my logo will be residing inside this logo folder. Okay, now you would have understood. I'll try to upload a logo over here, and then we'll access that logo image from our HTML page. Okay, so this is my logo. I'll just add it here and upload. If I get inside this logo.png file, what you see here, you get a public URL, object URL. Okay, so this URL you can use. If I just click on this open here, okay, this gets open, right? This is the file which we have just now uploaded. This is the public URL to access this file. I copied this URL and let's try to paste it in the browser. It won't open. It will say access denied. The reason is AWS policy is restricting it. Okay, because by default any bucket you create is not public. Okay, so to make it public we have to perform two actions. Okay, Let's go to my bucket. Now go to permission, and you see here we have bucket policy. Okay, so the bucket policy written in JSON provide access to objects stored in the bucket. We have to create a policy to give permission to it. But before that, public access is blocked because public access settings are turned on for this bucket. You can see here this public access. So first we have to go and block all public access. This checkbox we have to uncheck. This is another security measure provided by AWS. It's a good thing. So even if accidentally we set our policy which allows public access, it will block it from here. Okay. Right now the intention is we are going to access it over the internet, so we have to enable it publicly. Okay. Now we'll create a policy around it. For this I'll be using policy generator. Okay, it's a nice tool provided by AWS. It's completely free. So I'm going to create policy for S3 bucket. Effect is allow, principal everyone, and action I just want a read-only access, right? So for read-only access I'll just say get object and then all resource. So resource, what I'll do, this is our bucket properties. I have to copy this URL basically. Okay, so this URL I have to pass it here so that this policy is limited to this particular bucket only. Okay, now you generate the policy, copy the content, close it. I think I closed my edit policy window. So public access anyway we have turned on. We just have to go to public bucket here. I mean public policy. See, before applying this, I'll again try to show you this page. Okay, even though we enable public access, you won't be able to see it. Why? Because we had no policy in place, and if we don't have policy in place, it is like a forcefully denial policy applied by AWS if there is nothing applied here. I mean, if the window is blank, if there is no policy specified, AWS enforces a denial policy. Now save our changes, and if we go back, do we have any error? I think yes. Yeah, we mentioned the bucket, okay, but not the object inside the bucket. So if I say /*, you can see here action does not apply to any resource because we are saying bucket, but there's when we set policy, the policy is not about bucket, the policy is about objects within the bucket. So now when we say /*, it is like we are allowing all the objects within the bucket. We can go for any specific object as well, but as of now we are good to go with the star. You can see now we have the image file loaded. Okay, so that's one part. We are able to access it successfully using our browser. Now I'll go back to my this image and I will set this path over here. So if I save it and refresh my page, it will load it from the bucket directly. To prove that, I'll just click on open image in new tab, and you can see here this is pointing from the bucket URL. Okay, so far so good. Now we have completed one part. Let's go to EC2 instance. Okay, that is our agenda. We completed till here. Now we'll launch an EC2 instance and host a site. Okay. So for that, we have to go to EC2 instance. Let's open EC2 instance. And within EC instance running, you have to click on launch instance. Okay. Let me copy this bucket name for my reference. Okay. Buckets. And this. So instance I will create here mk EC2. Okay. Short and meaningful. So we have Amazon Linux image type already provided here that comes under free tier. I am just selecting the free tier eligible option here. Okay. And then instance type here, you can see it's free tier. We have different options, but I'm just going with the default free tier. Key pair. Key pair is basically necessary if you want to log into your machine outside the AWS environment. It's good to have a key pair. The AWS recommend that, because if you don't have key pair, there's no way getting inside the machine outside the AWS environment. Okay, but it has to be kept very securely. It is as good as your password. If you share it with anyone can log into your machine using this key pair. Okay, so now to allow our website access publicly, we have to allow HTTP traffic, because that is what we are going to use. You can have HTTPS, but that requires a secure tunnel and SSL certificate. So I don't want to go for that as of now. Okay, so we allowed HTTP access, and then we have to go to advanced. This storage and all, I'm going with default 8 GB. We have this EPS volume, so that is enough for us. Advanced, I'm ignoring everything and just going to user data script. I have a user data script ready. So you can see here, basically what I'm doing, I'm just saying sudo yum update -y. It's just updating the package and then installing Apache server, then the same HTML content. So what I will do here, where's our bucket? This one, right? Let me see the objects. This public URL, we have to paste it this way. Okay, so now this is our web content, which is directly going to write inside this index.html in the var www HTML path. So this is the default path for Apache website. Okay, so we are going to install the Apache and then we'll just simply restart and enable the server. So this is what we are going to do inside the user data script, so that whenever our instance gets launched, this will be provisioned. Okay, so our instance is ready. Let's go inside. Now you can see here we have a public DNS as well as a public IP. We can use either of these to access our application. Okay, so let me copy this URL of public DNS and I will just simply open it here. We have to say HTTP, make it complete path. So you can see here the web page got loaded directly from our EC2 instance. Okay, so that was next part of our agenda. And then what we are going to try now, we'll try to use some CLI command within the EC2 instance. Okay, so for that I'll just simply go to connect, and we can use our key pair and SSH into our EC2 instance also, but I'm just simply going through this so that we don't end up spending more time. I don't want to make this video so long. It is going to be long little bit because we are covering so many things, but unnecessary we can avoid. AWS S3 So this is the command which I am trying to list down all my S3 buckets over my account. Okay, so you can see here the moment I try to access this, it is asking for the configuration. So why? Because I am logged in into this machine. Okay, and if someone tries to access some resource, this is not part of this machine. Try to understand. Okay, EC2 instance and S3 service, they are two different entities, though they are residing inside the AWS, but they are two different entities. I mean to say, S3 bucket is not owned by this particular instance. Okay, so if I'm trying to access something which is not part of this machine, it is going to ask the credential. That is why it is asking. I have to configure my AWS credential here. Okay, but that's not a best practice. We cannot save our credential in the machine. If someone other logs into the machine, they can see my credential. Okay, so I won't go through that way. So that not what now what is the alternate? So the alternate is we can create a service account. Okay, so for that we have to go to IAM service. Okay, here we can create a roles. Okay, and that role will be assigned to EC2 instance basically. So create a role. What I'll create, I will say first thing we have to select this AWS service because it's a service to service communication. EC2 is going to access S3 bucket. No human intervention is required here, right? If some user is accessing, that time we need IAM roles related to user. So we have to select this role is we are designing for EC2 instance. The use case will be EC2, and then I just want to give read only permission as of now. S3 read only. Okay, so this permission I'm going to provide to my newly created role. So role name will give, let's say, MK EC2 read only this S3. Okay, so we created one role. Okay, that's it. One more important thing to notice here, when we create this policy here, right? So this policy says it's a trust policy. Okay, so we are establishing trust between two different entities, S3 and EC2 instance. So EC2 instance, the moment we will try to access any resource of S3 bucket, which I am allowed obviously, so only for that particular moment we are going to assume the role. Okay, I mean the EC2 instance is going to assume that role. Okay, so like let's say I created this command, I just triggered this command, ls command for S3 bucket. So for listing that bucket information, EC2 is going to assume that role. Okay, with that role it will get the access, perform the operation, and then that role will be again revoked. Okay, so we are good. Let's create the role. Okay, the role is created, but only creating the role will not suffice. What we have to do, we have to go to instance and we have to associate this role with the bucket, I mean with the EC2 instance. Select the role we created and then So now if we directly try to access, let me reconnect. So now if I say AWS S3 LS, okay, because we have associated the role, we are able to successfully list the bucket. Okay. Now what we are going to do, we are just simply going to list the content within this bucket. Okay, you can see here we have a pre logo. Okay, so this logo basically is a prefix. We created a folder, right? But this is how AWS bucket works. Okay, there's no folder structure as such. Basically, whenever you create a folder, it's basically a key get attached to the objects. Okay, that's it. So whenever you are saving, let's say in this when we listed this bucket here now with this command logo, okay, so this entire path becomes a prefix for this object, whatever object we have, Techie-T logo.png, and this path, this becomes a prefix for this. Okay, there's no hierarchy maintained, I mean to say, as a folder structure internally. They are called as like kind of a tags, you can say. Okay, so now we have this CLI command working from EC2 instance. Now we are done with this. What next we can do? We'll create a Lambda function quickly. Okay, so I'm directly jumping from Lambda. Okay, Lambda function basically is a serverless service provided by AWS, where like we can have our it is basically meant for developers. We can have small codes without server, and this code gets executed based on certain trigger points. We can have a HTTP trigger, and we can have like what we are going to try now, triggered by S3 bucket. Okay, there are various triggers. So let me create my function name. I'll just say mklm and function image processor. Let's give this name, and runtime, what we are going to select, Python. Okay, I'm going to use Python for this. And permissions. Okay, you can have different language first of all, based on your requirement. Like Lambda supports various different languages. As of now, I'm going with Python. You have to set a permission. Okay, so if you see here permission, you have changed default execution role. We'll create our own role. Okay, using existing role. As of now, we don't have any. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll create a role. Let's go back to roles again. Okay, role. Let's create a new role. Again, service to service. Now this time this use case is for Lambda. So we want Lambda to have one policy. Okay, so Lambda, we will create one new policy. Okay, what we'll do, I don't want to leave this page. Let me open a new one. Come on, I want in a new tab. Okay, roles we are creating, but that roles requires some permission. Okay, I want to create a custom permission. So what we'll do, service, I want to create permission for this S3 bucket, right? So policy will be around S3 bucket. What we are going to allow, maybe what we will do, just understand it here. We have a bucket here, right? As I earlier mentioned, like Lambda function, what we'll do, we'll copy one image from a source bucket to a destination bucket, okay, through Lambda. So like let's create a hypothetical scenario here. Like I have a UX team who is working along with me. I want to create a segregation. They cannot touch my bucket directly. Whatever they keep, I want to just move that image from their bucket to my bucket. Okay. So in other scenario, like you can have a thumbnail creation processing, like the moment an image is getting uploaded to your site, you want to create a thumbnail out of it, and that thumbnail you want to represent on your web page, so that while loading you show a nice thumbnail, and that too with like less bandwidth occupied, like you can minify that file. Okay, so for that we'll create two buckets. First of all, web bucket and UX bucket. Okay, so this UX bucket is going to our source bucket, right? So when we talk about permission, so what permissions we have to give? Source bucket, I should be able to read it, right? Then after reading, I should be able to write it to the destination bucket. Two permissions: read for source, write for destination. Okay, so this read permission is called as get object, and this write object permission is called as put object. Okay, so these two permissions we want to give. Further, if you want additional permissions, like if I want to delete it, which is not my territory, UX is keeping it, I don't want to delete it, but just to demonstrate you, I'll create two permissions here. Okay, though I will not delete it from here, but just to demonstrate, if I want to move it, I should have two permissions. Okay, get and delete, and destination bucket I'll be having the write operation. Okay, so let's create these two permissions. So I'll say get object and delete object. So these two permissions will be given for my source bucket, UX bucket, right? So I just want to go to my bucket. Oh, I have to create it. I just forgot creating the source bucket. So let me copy it, bucket name, and then create it. Okay, so I'll go inside this web UX bucket, and properties, you have this URL, right? So now we'll go back to our role and permission. So here we action allow delete object and get object. Here you have to if you have lost the rhythm, what we did, we went to specify permission. Okay, we selected the S3 service, and then we allowed two operations, basically delete and get, and then resources specific, we will select that resource here, and then we have to say star add ARN. Okay, add more permission will do for the write operation. Okay, again same thing, what we'll do, we'll select the service S3, and then allow permission will be put object, resource will be this one, our destination bucket. So where it is, add ARN, go to text, copy it here, and done. Okay, now next what we have to do, we have to go to next and then give the policy name. So again I'll give MK This time it is for Lambda, and what we can say, image processing policy. Okay, so this policy we are going to create here. Okay, create. So now we have our policy in place. We'll go back to our roles page where we left. Now select the policy. Okay, if it is not there, let me refresh this and then refresh it. We got our policy. Okay, select it. Now, in addition to this custom policy, what we need to log our actions, because Lambda, when we are creating, it's a completely serverless. And what is happening when let's say trigger happens, the function gets executed, and if some error occurs, boom, that time we will not be able to trace it. So we have to make sure that we create a function which can be fully traceable. So for that, we have to give some execution policy. Okay, so it's called basic execution policy. Okay, AWS Lambda basic execution role. Okay, so if you see this, basically it creates, it allows you this create log and all. We can go and directly allow this in our existing policy, but I just wanted to demonstrate that we have readily available, so we can use this AWS Lambda basic execution role. Okay, so now we are good. We have our role ready. Okay, let's give this a name. What name we'll give? We'll give it as a Lambda image process role, let's say. Okay, so provide this name. Policy is in place. Again, you can see here what it says. It says assume role. So when we say assume role, again, my Lambda function is going to assume for that role. Okay, the moment it tries to hit the S3 bucket. And similarly, when Lambda goes for writing logs, for that particular time, it will be assuming role of that basic execution role. Okay, so now my Lambda has two different roles internally, if we see. Okay, now role got created. What we'll do, we'll refresh this screen. And now we have this role. We are back in our Lambda function creation. We gave the name, we selected the environment, we selected existing role, and create function. Okay, our function is ready. Now what we have to do, we have to go to code. Sorry, right below code. Okay, I have some code in place. So this code, basically what it does, it will like if you see here, this is the default structure what we have got from AWS when we created this file, this function. So we have a file called lambda function.py, that is an entry point, and this function is also an entry point for this file. Okay, so basically the execution start from here. Okay, so lambda handler. So this lambda handler is as it is, and we have an event. Event is basically whenever any event occurs, this function gets executed. So in this case, in our case, our scenario, what we'll do, we'll create a trigger for S3 bucket. Okay, so we'll get this bucket like this inside our events of records. Okay, and we have to loop through all the events. So for each event record, we get this information. Okay, there might be a scenario that multiple event occurred. So to handle this, we have to have a loop, and you got your bucket like this, like it is like record inside S3, and then the bucket, and then the name. You got the bucket. Then same thing, source key. Source key is like record S3 and then object. As I told, whenever we are storing, let it be anything in S3 bucket. It can be an image file, it can be your object of a Excel file, it can be a Word doc, it can be a snapshot, it can be a database backup. Anything you store in your S3 bucket, it is treated as object. Okay, so key will be inside object. Okay, so when we say key, it will be something like slash logo slash Techie-T. Okay, because if you see here, this part will be your key. Okay, this part is going to be your key. Okay, so till here, this is your bucket name. Okay, so this is your bucket name. So bucket name will give you this one. Okay, and this is your key part. Okay, for in case of source bucket, destination bucket, source bucket, it will be instead of web, it will be UX. Okay, so now you got your key and bucket, and this is what we are forming it here. Copy source. Let me undo it, otherwise. So you will have copy source object created, dictionary object created, and then simply we are calling one AWS command where we are saying s3.copy object, and we are saying copy source equal to copy source, and bucket equal to destination bucket, and key equal to destination key, where destination bucket and destination key is something which we have to decide. Why? Because trigger will keep the information of who has triggered this event, right? So in this case, S3 bucket has triggered it. So source information will be there always in the event, but destination information we have to keep it. So we'll create an environment variable around it. Okay, we'll see it later. As of now, we are good. I will just copy this content and place it here, and we have to deploy the code. Okay, don't forget to deploy the code. Sometimes users forget to deploy the code and they keep debugging why their changes are not working. Okay, so your code is deployed. Now what you have to do, we have to do few things, like we'll create a trigger point. Okay, so trigger will be what? Our S3 bucket, which bucket? Our UX bucket, event. I'll say all object creation. Okay, let it be put post copy. Anytime object is newly added, it will be triggering the event. Okay, prefix. As we created logo prefix, same prefix I'll maintain for this. So anything placed inside logo, and when we say anything, it becomes a little broad. Let's restrict it with suffix also. So only PNG file I'm going to allow within the logo folder. Okay, I acknowledge, add. Okay, so now you can see here the dots are connected. S3 is going to trigger this Lambda function. Okay, now we have to configure our environment variable because we are using two of them. Go to edit, add environment variable. So you can see here what we discussed. This is going to your destination bucket. Okay, so I'll keep here bucket value. I'll give the environment name letter, and this will be my key part. Okay, that's it. And if I go to this function, we are expecting this destination bucket. So this is your destination bucket, and destination key. This is going to be our destination key. So whenever a trigger occurs, I want these particular file to be overwritten within this bucket. So that is why I'm setting these two environment variable. Okay. Now, if everything is good, the moment we upload a file to our UX bucket, we should see it reflecting in our destination bucket, the web bucket. Okay. So for that, let me create the same folder structure. Create folder, logo, because we have given the prefix in our trigger point. Even if I place it outside, it won't trigger. So we have to go to logo folder, and then we have to upload it. Let me select the file. This time, if you would have noticed, we had earlier this logo. Now I'm uploading a different variation of it. Okay. So let's upload it. Okay. Now, if we go to our web page and refresh it, you can see here the image immediately got changed. Okay, looks like a magic. Though we have not done anything to our destination bucket. Now let's see what has happened under the hood. So for this, we can go to our CloudWatch. We created a role around it, right? If you remember. So we are into CloudWatch. So CloudWatch basically works on groups. So if you see logs, we have a log groups. Okay. So AWS, our Lambda basically has created this group because of that permission we gave. So if you see here, AWS Lambda and then alarm function image processor. So all the logs related to this Lambda will go and reside here. So every log it creates, it is called as log stream. If you go into this log stream, you will see a series of actions get captured. So it got start, okay, and then you can see here inside Lambda handler, we had a log here. We printed this inside Lambda handler. This is what it has printed, and now we are saying object copied from this bucket to this bucket and request. Okay, so everything it has logged, whatever action it has performed. Okay, even this object copied from this bucket, if you see, we only logged it. This print. Okay, so this is what it got captured here. Okay, so everything got logged, and we saw our Lambda function working perfectly. Even if I go to my bucket, I don't need this Lambda anymore, but yeah, let me go to first bucket. There's my bucket. So we are into bucket, objects, logo, and then if I select this image, so this image got replaced in our web bucket. Okay, this is our destination bucket, and the image got changed here. So that's it. We are good with our all the use cases. Now the most crucial part. If you are practicing along with me, or if you practice following this video, don't forget to perform cleanup. Otherwise, you may end up paying some dollars. Okay, so we'll do the cleanup one by one. CloudWatch, I don't need it as of now. So we'll go and delete this log group. Okay, then now we have this bucket. I'll select this bucket, delete it. Okay, it gives us warning that this is empty. This is having some content, so we have to empty the bucket. Hope you like the video. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up. It gives us motivation. We have to type here permanently delete. Okay, now what we have to do, again try to delete this bucket. This time we have to copy this, delete bucket. Okay, now delete this bucket. Again it will give me a warning. Let me empty it. My bad. Select it and delete it. That's it. After this, yeah, we are done with the bucket cleanup. And this is also a bucket window. We add an instance. Let's terminate this instance. Okay. Now Lambda function. Okay, we created 2 roles around it. This is the reason why I keep writing, so that we don't end up forgetting what all resources we have created. And it also gives us ease of using it, like whenever we want, we find them handy. Okay. Do let me know if you guys have any comment, if you have any query, if you are stuck while performing this lab. Do let me know in the comment box. I'll be happy to help. And subscribe to the channel for more such video. I'll be keep posting new videos. And yeah, share with your friends and family who are like learning AWS. Okay, so roles are deleted, policies. I'll delete this policy as well. Okay, so we are done with all the cleanup activity and we are good for today.